Hi, I welcome you to the first video of this Adobe XD Plugins introduction course. As you notice from the course name, I'm going to familiarize you with some practical and important plugins on Adobe XD. In order to work with these plugins, you should complete a few steps to install them at first. In the help section of the menu, there is a sign in option where you should enter your email and password, which I have already done here. An important note is that it's necessary to previously register on Adobe Cloud. Afterwards, we will move on to installing the plugins. I have installed a few plugins here earlier. In order to install them, we are to click on the Discover Plugins, opening a window containing practical guides. This section of the windows is not very relevant to our course. The important part is the Browse section, where you can find and install the plugins you seek. In order to manage the previously installed plugins, we are to open the Manage section, where the plugins are displayed and can be updated or uninstalled. This way, you can easily install plugins and make them appear here on the plugins bar. That's all for this episode, and the initial explanation are over. In the following videos, we are going to see how each of the plugins work. Hi guys, I mean to familiarize you with some of the effective and practical plugins on Adobe XD in the first part of Adobe XD Plugins instruction course. The first plugin is Calendar, which I have installed before. Upon clicking on it, some options for creating a calendar are displayed. The first option is the language, where lies a list of different languages, of which English is the most appropriate for us. In the section just below, you can adjust the size of the calendar cells, considering the artboard on which I intend to create the calendar. It is believed a 30 by 30 size is appropriate. In the next part, you can choose a year and a month. I, for instance, have chosen May 2022. In the section below that, as you can see, you can choose Sunday or Monday as the beginning day of the week. In the final part, you can select the manner of the display of the weekdays. In my submission, the two-letter mode is most appropriate. You can see that the calendar appears on the artboard I had chosen beforehand after I select Make Calendar. A disadvantage of this calendar, however, is that it is not responsive. In other words, when the size of the calendar is altered, the size of the cells remain unchanged. To address that, we will open the Layer section. You can see a folder named Group 1, which represents the calendar, is shown here and contains all components of the calendar. We will need to manually adjust them in order to solve the problem. We have now learned how the calendar plugin works. We will move on to the next plugin, VizzyCharts, through which various charts can be easily drawn. I'd installed this plugin beforehand as well. As you can see, after I click on it, some instruction appears suggesting that you draw or select an object like a circle or a rectangle to insert the chart into it. I would also like to give you a piece of advice about this plugin. Using the VizzyCharts plugin, you can only draw charts in column type, linear or ring-like form, as stated by the software itself. To draw the chart, we will first proceed to the new artboard and draw a rectangle on the artboard. You can now see the options allocated to the column section for column type charts. The first is data, and in this section it is implied that the data is stored in a file named sample.csv. If you wish to add new data there, you can use the import button. Note that the CSV is necessary at the end of the file name. In the next section, you can determine the size of the general chart, or rather the width and the height of it using the top left and right part respectively. You can also adjust the width of each of the columns and the size of the gaps between them using the bottom left and bottom right option in the section respectively. In the section below, as suggested by name, you can adjust the labels that may exist in the sample.csv file. You can determine whether or not you want the labels to exist in the sample.csv file. Furthermore, you can adjust the size of the labels with the middle option and their color with the bottom one. I myself will use the default settings here and press the create button. As you can see, a number of column and label at the bottom of the columns have appeared. In order to have a linear chart, I will select line. As you can see, the options for the linear chart have appeared. Since I had selected such a rectangle for the chart, the options and the setting are in a relation to this rectangle and will result in the chart within it. To create a distinction between this chart, I will draw a new rectangle on a new artboard and proceed to the options like the column section. The data, size, and labels and fonts section also exist here, and they function similarly here. The difference between the two kinds of chart is the style section. I will select the create button to see the difference it makes. You can see there are some circular spots in the linear chart. They represent points of slope changes. The slope change point will be sharp and the chart will have a zigzag appearance. But before that, let me create a new rectangle. And then a style curved and create. By contrast, when curved is activated, the slope change points are curved and round. The stroke setting determines the thickness of the chart, whether in a straight or curved mode. Mark size determines the presence of the circular spots at the slope change point. We can remove them by removing the check mark by the option name. The number 10 represents the size of the circle and can be adjusted. The next chart is the ring chart. I will draw a rectangle on a new artboard again. As you can see, the options in the ring section are different from the other ones. The first distinction is the data section, where there are 3 numbers separated by commas. This indicates that the chart will be divided in 3 parts with different percentages. As you can see, the sum of this number is 100. In order to divide the chart into more or fewer parts, we are clearly to enter more number here or remove some. Note that the total of the number must be 100. I will select create now to explain the size and the style section more easily. The top left option, which had been set to 316, indicate the inner diameter of the circle. The upper right setting represents the thickness of the chart. I will insert another rectangle and alter the bottom left and bottom right setting to 5 and 4 respectively. After selecting create, you can see that the gaps between the divide part have become wider. This can be adjusted using the bottom left option. And by using the bottom right option, we can curve the edge of the portion. Although applying this is not very proper here. The next section is label. By removing the check mark here, the label within the ring chart can be erased. The number displayed within the ring is the first number in the data section. Turning on Enter label will make the number visible. That is all for the ring chart and the VizzyCharts plugin. Hi guys, part 2. In this part, the first plugin that I'm going to elaborate on is UI Faces. This plugin is utilized when you have several shapes and want to fill them with avatars. For instance, I will draw a rectangle here and make a few duplicates of it. After I select Ungrouped Grid, all of the rectangles will be selected and some source will appear in the plugin section, as you can see. The sources can be used to insert picture into the rectangles. You can also make adjustments in the filter section. In order for more speed, I will select Apply randomly. It will take some time for the shapes to be filled with the pictures. You can see how quickly the pictures were provided. The next plugin is Arrange4XD, which proves to be highly effective when used to design loading screens. You can see there are multiple different layouts based on which you can design your screen in the plugin section. I am only going to explain the circle layout, as the others are similar to it. To design my loading screen, I will create a duplicate of the artboard. As you can see, I have divided the skeleton into 3 parts in the layer section. That is, the upper part, the middle part, and the bottom part. I mean, to convert the skeleton part into circles. To do so, I will allocate a width and height to 300 to the bottom part of the skeleton in the plugin section. I will drag it to the middle of the artboard. I will proceed to set the width and the height of the middle part to 600, as I believe it is an appropriate size, and drag the part to the middle of the artboard. I will also change the dimension of the upper part to 900 by 900 and drag it onto the artboard. I should point out that I did not assign this number with much precision. You can adjust the setting with more accuracy and precision. I mean the skeleton on the left artboard to break into circle and convert into the one on the right, and then revert to its original state. I will select Prototype. Match the left artboard to the right one, select time in the trigger section, and adjust the delay to 1 second. Note that the Auto Animate option must be selected in the Type section and the easing option should be set to ease in, out. In this section, I will allocate 2 seconds to the duration. I will then match the artboard on the right to the one on the left. When playing it, You can see the loading screen has so conveniently been created and continuously repeats the animation while loading. Another plugin that can prove invaluable in web export. Using this plugin, you can easily export your artboard as an HTML output. Regrettably, a disadvantage it bears is that it may not be able to convert the tags in HTML. An important section here is the element properties windows, open by selecting element option, where you can adjust the properties. Okay, now I will export the artboard and open a new HTML file. As you can see, the artboard has been easily exported to the new file. At the end of this part, I wish to acquaint you with another plugin named Lorem Ipsum, which is utilized when you merely wish to enter a text as a sample, and the text itself is of no importance. You can select and use any of option of plugin you need. It is, in my opinion, that this plugin is one of the most important and most effective ones on Adobe XD. Hi guys, I'm very happy that you are with us. The first plugin I wish to introduce in this lecture is UnDraw, which is utilized when you do not have access to illustration software, don't have sufficient time to design your desired elector, or don't know how to do so. Through this plugin, you can easily use one of these free illustrations. For instance, I will click on Happy Birthday with a message suggesting the image has been successfully loaded on your clipboard. You can insert the illustration directly into your design through one of means demonstrated by the message. When I right click on the UnDraw artboard and select Paste, the illustration appears on the artboard, as you can see. The next plugin, I aim to familiarize you with this Use Uilogos, which is similar to UnDraw, and it's used when you wish to insert some fake logos into your design and the nature of the logos is not of any importance. In order to utilize this plugin, you are to insert a rectangle of any size and select one of the type of the plugin. I will select black logo mark, for instance, with a message appearing as suggesting successful insertion. As you can see, the logo has conveniently been inserted into the design. The next plugin I want to introduce is Rename It. Use to align the names of your artboard on Adobe XD. For instance, I will select these 3 artboards. Select Rename It, and then select Rename Selected Layers. A window where you can change the number of the layers is then opened. You can easily enter a name using the keyboards for the names to change to that name. As you can see, all the layers' names have been aligned. Through the second option, you can also find and replace the name of a specific layer. The last 2 items of Rename It, or rather setting and donate, are not very useful to us and actually correlate with the plugin support. Our next plugin is Icon4Design. As implied by the plugin name, you can search the name of your desired icon. I will search Drive, for instance, and I provide it with related items. For the section beside the search bar, you can adjust the size of your icons. There isn't much explanation to the plugin, yet it can be very useful and effective because this method is much more expedient than searching for icons on website. The next plugin is Artboard Plus, with which you can arrange your artboards. For instance, imagine my plugins are messy and scattered around like this. I want them to be precisely placed side by side. After opening the Artboard Plus section, I will select Rearrange Artboard into Grid. As can be seen, the artboards have been arranged as intended. If we want to create an artboard with the same size as this icon, we will select the second option from the plugin menu. You can see that the expected artboard has been created. The next two options in Artboard Plus section, as suggested by their names, sort the artboards in the alphabetical order. Another useful plugin is Color Designer. You can employ it to create a color palette. You can see I have previously selected a color as a default. The plugin creates a palette of the darker shade of the default in the Shades section, as you can see. In order to obtain the brighter shades, you can go to the Tints section, which will provide you with them in the Tints and Shades section. There is an option with which you can determine the number of the color on the palette. You can be seen the greater the number of colors, the less difference between each of them with the next. The other section in Shades, Tint, is Color Harmonies, used to maintain the harmony between the colors. You might ask yourself how the color in the Asset section are there and based on what the color on palette change. For instance, I like this shade. When I bring the cursor onto it, a plus sign appears. When clicking on it, a window opens showing the hex code and an option to add the color to Asset section. In order to switch between palettes, you can select a color of your choice, making the palette change based on that color. The color picker section provides you with a series of the different type of the colors selected in the section. This can prove to be of value at times. The next section is Images, which has compiled various images based on the color I had selected. The image for each color can be viewed by clicking on the search button. You can also switch between colors by selecting a different one. It may take some time for the related pictures to be loaded. Another option we have, and I consider more appropriate in View Online. When you click on it, a browser is opened containing additional palettes and revealed their hex, RGB, and HSL, which you can utilize for your designs. Hi guys, in this lecture, much like the previous ones, I'm going to introduce some plugins that can prove useful to you. Among them, two of them are similar to the plugins I have explained before. As you may remember, the VizzyCharts plugin can be used allowing the CSV file to draw ring chart. column charts, or linear charts. There is a similar plugin named Charts for XD. After selecting it and opening its window, you can see more types of chart can be created through this plugin. The free version of plugin allows you of the line chart and area chart. In order to activate the other charts, you should go to My Account and enter your email to gain access to the Pro version. In this plugin, you can create your chart in 3 ways. You can draw your chart in a random manner using Google Sheets or CSV files, or based on your local JSON. I want to draw a random chart, for instance. You can see I've been provided with this chart. I will place it in this table in order to adjust the appearance of the chart and want it to be drawn according to new data. You can select Update Chart and the Update Chart button. After doing so, you can see that your chart has been created based on different data. You may wish to change some variables of chart, in which case you can select Edit Chart. Using the top option in the section, you can determine the type of your chart. You can also adjust data and a style below. The style can be adjusted based on the template defined in the templates section. I will select Edit Chart, and since I have selected a different type of chart, the chart has been changed. As you can see, in the templates section, you can create various types of the templates. For instance, after selecting New Template and opening Edit Template, you can adjust the color, setting labels, the grid, or the chart type using the related sections. The chart will change accordingly after selecting Save and Close. You may recall that I introduced a plugin named UI Faces, where only pictures of people's expressions and face are provided. There is another plugin called PhotoSplash 2, with which you can obtain other sort of pictures. The plugin requires you to enter your email and password first when opening it. You can see you have successfully logged into the plugin. You might be searching for a specific picture, for instance a picture with a tree. You should then search tree in the section with the related tree pictures being loaded and appearing. You can also find your desired picture based on other variables and factors. Hi guys, sometimes you wish to entrust your design work to someone else for them to do some coding on it or apply some changes. When you use several pictures in your design, the size of your project may be colossal due to the great size of the pictures. The best thing to do is optimize your picture via the Image Optimizer plugin. For example, I will insert a picture here and place it inside this rectangle. I will select the picture and then Image Optimizer with the notification revealing the successful of the process. The size will therefore be easily reduced. However, the matter here is that when enlarging the picture, its quality decreases. Therefore, I can say that you must know and have in mind what size of the picture you wish to have in your project, so that you don't suddenly remember it after optimizing the picture in order to avoid this quality issue. You might have developed a design as an object and mean to create a greater number of the object. What does it mean? For instance, I placed some shapes in this rectangle and wish to make copies of them to obtain a pattern for a background or anywhere we want to use it. In order not to have to repeatedly copy of objects and adjust the locations, you can easily create your desired pattern through the Pattern Maker plugin. In doing so, you can determine the number of rows and columns, the distance between objects, and the mode of your choice. After selecting Make Pattern, you will see that these objects have been created, and you can use them anywhere you please. Our next plugin is Wireframe. You might be asking yourself what even wireframe is. In UI and UX designing, wireframe is exceedingly useful, particularly when you want to save your time. When attempting to complete a project, you will thoroughly create a general and initial outline which reveals information about your object and their locations using wireframes. It's not important what color or picture are utilized, but only the objects and the elements used in the project and their location are established. Through the wireframe, you can conveniently design your expected wireframes. The plugins has provided some default sample for menu, maps, sign menus, etc. In the first page here, there is only one instance of each type. And assuming that you want to see more sample for contact, for example, you can select folder. You can see there is a folder allocated to contact, providing us with additional sample for contact. You may have heard of the word mockup and say that mockup is closely identical to wireframe. So what is their difference? Mockup is in fact more accurate with detail and is more detailed than wireframe. In other words, wireframe is more similar to map, whereas mockup is a visually scheme. There is also a plugin for mockup named Quick Mockup. You can place the elements it contains on an artboard of your choice. The plugin also comprises prepared templates for phone or computer which you can employ. The next plugin is Experience Generator, through which you can create new artboard for different experiences. Permit me to remove this. Its comprehension may be easier with examples. After I click on the plugin, it displays a list of devices. Certainly, you don't know the exact size of every device. You can select a device of your choice. What I meant by experience when I was describing the plugin was the choice provided by the plugin such as portfolio, sign up, or SMS. You can thus create an artboard considering the experience. Evidently, after we create an artboard thereof, unlike wireframe and quick mockup, we will not be presented with items related to the experiences. Instead, the artboard will only be named after the experience. Allow me to choose one of option from each part. I selected Android tablet and calendar. After I select build experience, you can see an artboard with an Android tablet size, and you can see that is named calendar. As opposed to manually clicking on the artboard names and inserting your desired names, you can quickly and conveniently. This plugin includes another section called Social Media, which exhibits a list of experiences related to the social media. unlike the Artboard section. Creates artboards with names of your choice. You can see that the artboard is named after the experience I choose. Sometimes you may be working on a large project, perhaps with other people as a team. In the process of completing the project, there would clearly be facts and matters which you wish to write down. Instead of picking up a pen and paper sheet, you can conveniently write down your note by using Whiteboard. After I click on the plugin, I will select Whiteboard. As you can see, in the brainstorming section, you can pick and use any of this type of note. You may wish to write certain note manually, for which purpose you can use the drawing section. Moreover, flowcharts, mind map, and so on can be created using this plugin. The Elements section can be used when you wish to contribute additional elements into your whiteboard. If you mean to manually write on a board, you can utilize the Draw section. After selecting and start drawing, a window is opened like so, where we can take notes on the whiteboards using different color. You may be familiar with tools which function in a similar way to Whiteboard. While Whiteboard includes many more options to help you do your work conveniently. Hi guys, as you may recall, I have introduced a plugin named Wireframe earlier, where there are different artboards for different pages. However, it may be that you seek to manually insert the element into your design. The best plugin for this purpose in my experience and my knowledge is AutoFlow, where there are various layouts for different categories. For instance, imagine I have chosen this one for a block. I will drag it to the main screen, edit its size as I please, and use it. This plugin isn't only restricted to wireframe. You can also demonstrate the connections between the page or design a flowchart by means of the user flow or flowchart section. You may not be familiar with the nature of a flowchart. To give a general definition of it, a flowchart displays the initial overlay logic of your program. For instance, I have designed a simple flowchart here with the function of adding up two positive numbers. It begins with start and then obtain A and B. A condition has been laid down that it add A and B and get to C if they are both more than 0. It then writes C and the program ends. However, if A and B are not positive number, it is to get new number as A and B. The flowchart in fact provides us with a broader idea of a matter. In order to design this flowchart, you can use the user flow section, which offer various options which you can conveniently use. To develop connections between different artboard or even elements, you can utilize flowchart. What does it mean? I have previously designed a few pages, with the one on the left being the first. Upon selecting the first option, login, on this page, the page will be switched to the bottom page. And selecting the second option, sign up, will take you to the upper right page. In order to easily and quickly display this to an employer, I will go to flowchart and deactivate auto generate. I will then select the original page. and the destination page in this order and select that arrow for end so that it's clear from which page the transfer occurs and which page it leads to. After selecting apply, you can see an arrow has been drawn between the page with the arrow on its end, revealing that the transfer is from the left page to the right one. You can also connect the original page to the bottom page so that an employer who looks at this realizes the layout of the page and their connections. An important note is that to show the connections, you are to select only two artboard or objects. What does it mean? As you may have noticed, I select two artboard at a time. If I attempt to link the login option to the login page, text on the other page, an alert will appear suggesting that the two selected elements must be within a single artboard or two separate artboards must be selected, as you can see. We should absolutely pay attention to this while using this flowchart. Our next plugin is Auto Grid. What is grid? If you worked with Adobe XD after clicking on an artboard, you have certainly seen the grid section here. It serves the same purpose as Auto Grid. The difference is when activating grid here, it is applied to all the page and artboards, and the blue columns, as you can see, have a specific size and number. For instance, there are 4 in this case. In order to further adjust the setting of the grid and do so manually, you can use Auto Grid. In this section, you can adjust the number of columns and their distance. When selecting the Analyze button, a few options in relation to the pixel details of the columns and the gutters appear. I will select this option and select Analyze. As you can see, a number of columns are provided, and this grid can be greater in size than a grid created through the right bar on the screen. Our next plugin is Auto Icon. This plugin is slightly similar to Icon4Design Plugin, which I have introduced to you earlier. The difference between the plugins is that in addition to searching for your desired icon, you can utilize the icon package provided by Auto Icon. You can see there are crown icons next to some of their names, indicating that they are not available as they are not free, and you are to register to be able to use the package. How is the provision of icons in packages useful? The benefit is that when you gather your icons from different sources, they may not be similar in appearance, while they would be much more integral when obtained as a package. Hi guys, there's also another plugin for icon named MDI, which stands for Material Design Icons. This plugin is used when you wish to employ material icons, that is, icons that have more integrity and are more up to date and more official. These icons are commonly useful by websites and applications, are in other words, standard. The next plugin I wish to introduce is Color Scale. As it can be concluded from the name, Color Scale provides us with a scale of colors. As you may recall, we have been acquainted with another plugin named Color Designer, the color produced by which were more limited. The color scale plugin, however, it's used when you wish to create a color palette using the color of the objects. I've created and selected these two objects, and when I select color scale, a window opens informing me of what the base color and the second color are, and providing a section to determine the length of color scale, or rather the number of colors on the palette. I will, for instance, set it to 15, and the requested number of colors have been created above the artboard. In addition to designing work, you may also be involved with coding. Your design has a specific width, length, and even color. This data can be converted to codes, that is, they will be turned to CSS codes in coding. In order to implement the conversion, you can use the copy CSS to clipboard. To do so, note that you must select an individual object prior to selecting the plugin. After selected, the codes will be copied. You should then open your coding environment. Here, I simply open Notepad for you to see the provided codes. You can see I'm presented with this data, which has been converted to CSS. Our next plugin has a smart layout. Through this plugin, you can organize the objects in your design and convert them to a whole layout. What does that mean? For example, I will insert a few objects here. Select them all. And then select a smart layout. After doing so, you can see some instruction is given here about this process as well. Although I've already selected the objects, when I select convert to a smart layout, you can see that all of the objects rearranged on the same side. An identical distance are automatically created between them. When we open our artboard menu, we see that all of the shapes we have inserted and selected have been categorized under a single group. In my submission, this can be very appropriate to your designs and expedite your work. The final plugin I want to tell you about in this course is Typescale. By means of this plugin, you can create different scales and size for a piece of text. As an instance, I will type hello world. In order to display the text in order scales and size, you should remove the check mark from the content section here. You can also select an option of your choice for the scale and adjust the maximum and minimum size. For instance, I entered the two value of 10 and 12. After I select create type a scale, you can see that the multitude of identical text pieces with dissimilar size are created. Why did I remove the check mark? Because if the option is on, the predetermined word, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, will appear instead. Here, the list of plugins in the course for the introduction of Adobe XD plugins ends. Evidently, there are many more plugins that you can use on this application. The plugins I described here are those which I have worked with so far. Many of them can be of great value to you and very popular. I'm delighted you were with us, and I hope you have enjoyed the course. Good luck, guys.